we're going to go ahead and get started, you guys, with the panel. So we've got the most amazing current student panel here ever in the history of time. Not just the MSJ program, but the history of time. So what
let's run it back.
What I'd like them to do first is just kind of go through and give you a short introduction about each of them, kind of just a little bit about what led you to Medill.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Janelle Agee. I'm currently Q4, graduating in June. I started last June. I am a video concentration, broadcast, on air. So what led me to Medill? I went to undergrad at Spelman College in Atlanta. After that, I worked for 3 years as a media planner, and during that time, I was going to Columbia University to get my first master's in sports management, and I thought I wanted to be this huge marketing executive and market for the Olympics and the Super Bowl, and then I was like, I really don't want to sit behind a desk for 8 hours. So fortunately enough, my dad used to play professional baseball, so I was around amazing stories all the time, and I figured, you know, I want to tell these stories that people really never hear. So I decided to look for journalism schools because I didn't write. I was behind a desk just writing emails to people every day. And I wanted to hone in on that craft and learn how to write for TV and learn how to tell stories in a specific way to capture a viewer and capture an audience. So that's what led me here to Medill.
I'm Kate Morrissey. I'm originally from Atlanta, went to University of Georgia, so we have the southern contingent here.
I'm from New York though, but I went down south.
All right, so I'm southern. Never mind. I studied literary translation in undergrad, so I translated poetry from one language to another, which, if you're wondering, is not very employable. And so from that, I ended up working at a healthcare IT company doing quality assurance for software for a number of years. And then I also decided that I hated sitting behind a desk all day. And I ended up doing a lot of soul searching and realizing that what I really missed was like language and words. And I was like, what can I do with that? And then it was like journalism. You get to walk around and talk to people, and then you get to write about it. And it's like the perfect balance of things. So that led me here.
Okay, my name is Sarah Shahayeb, and I ended up here. I did my undergrad at the University of Michigan, and they don't have a journalism program there. They just have communications. So I did that, did a couple of internships, but it's really not that easy to get a job with that experience, at least where I was looking. So it kind of took a year to figure some things out. I always knew grad school was something I wanted to do, and Medill was like the perfect fit. This is exactly where I want to be. 1 year sounded and still sounds really appealing. It's just a lot, but it's great. Yeah, and I'm, again, from Michigan. Chicago's not too far from home, so yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay, I'm Mike Epstein. I'm in my 4th quarter, so
Yay.
wrapping up in June. I'm doing magazine concentration, and after graduating from Brandeis University in 2009, I started working as a freelance journalist, mostly covering technology and the video game industry. And I came to Medill because in that time I most of my work was very short form, sort of blog style news reporting, and I wanted to sort of focus on expanding my skill set. So I've taken some design courses, I've taken obviously magazine courses, so I'm learning to write longer form articles, and hopefully that's what I'm going to do when I get out of here.
Thanks, guys. The next question I have, and we'll start at this end and work our way down. What would you like to do with a degree once you graduate?
Something. I think. Let's hope so. I ideally would like to work for a magazine or some sort of online publication that would allow me to do either long form reporting or just a wide variety of reporting, mostly writing. That's my thing. But I mostly just want to be able to work somewhere where I would believe in what I'm doing and really get interested in what I'm doing. And that's, I think, the most important thing for being a reporter, no matter what your medium or where you're working, that when you take on a story, it engrosses you, it pulls you in, because if it pulls you in, then you're going to pull you in.
That's a great answer.
Darn it.
Okay, so I forgot to mention that I'm in my second quarter right now. So I'm still figuring some things out. I'd say after Medill though, I'm kind of oscillating between local broadcast news, international reporting, and travel reporting. So I'm kind of, right now I'm trying to figure it out in my quarter. I'm kind of taking all three things right now, and trying to figure that out. But I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's like you can come out of here and there's so many opportunities. So yeah, if I end up doing any three of those things, that would be fantastic.
So I guess, I don't know if I said, I'm in Q3. I've been really focusing on the digital space and news reporting. And so like, not only reporting and writing all different lengths of things, and then also like how to package it and put it up online, and learning like markup and some coding and stuff. And I think the trajectory I've sort of set for myself right now is I'd like to work for somebody for a while, hopefully overseas if I can swing it. I've also been doing a lot of global stuff while I'm here, and then sort of shift into a freelancing space so that I can launch my own publication that would be some kind of like digital news platform, to be determined. So sort of trying to like figure out how to wear all of the hats to get something like that off the ground and get as many different kinds of skills as I can.
My goal for once I graduate is to start a smaller market, so kind of making my reel right now, sending that out, doing general assignment news, but eventually I want to get into entertainment and sports, so red carpets and award shows, and I don't want to do sideline work, that's just too much, but moderating conversations, so definitely morning news, national morning news is really my 10-year goal down the line. But right now, just doing general assignments and working around entertainment and sports.
The next couple questions I have for you guys is in the series of what was your favorite? And you guys, there's no particular order, any of you can answer however you'd like. What was your favorite class? Or what's been your favorite class so far in the program?
I was surprised because mine was actually photojournalism, which is something I've never done before. And my professor, Rob Park, is a former Chicago Sun-Times guy. He's a little crazy, I'm gonna be honest.
A lot crazy.
He gets introduced to all. He works with everybody in the first quarter, and then if you're, he doesn't drag you away, then you take photojournalism and you work with real cameras. And just being thrown out there and trying to really figure out the visual storytelling in a way that I've never tried to do before, it really just took it. So I had a lot of fun.
Okay. So last quarter I took interactive digital news producing website with Kurt Gessler, who is the senior digital editor at the Chicago Tribune. And so basically the class was, I'm going to teach you the basics for all of the skills that someone who works for me would need. And so we did everything from like creating and designing like web page layouts to like, here's a breaking news story that continues to have information coming in over the next like, several hours, aggregate it and make a story. And so he basically sent us every email that he got during the snowpocalypse, and we had to continuously rewrite the snowpocalypse story as it was unfolding, which was pretty cool. So a lot of different pieces there, and he's just a really great resource.
I'll go. My favorite class, there are actually two, but they're basically the same thing. In Q3, I took a TV news and performance class, or producing and performance. And so there, every week we rotated different positions. So you could either be a producer, you could be an anchor, you could be in charge of the teleprompter, you could be in charge of the camera, you could be an on-set reporter in front of the monitor, or at the anchor desk. And so there we got to learn all of the different positions, but one time during the entire semester you had to produce your own 30-minute show. So you had to come up with a list of stories that you wanted in your show. You had to come up with the order. You had to know what time each of the stories were so that you can make your 30-minute show with 2 2-minute breaks in it. So from third quarter to fourth quarter, now there are a group of students in Q4 that really wanted to focus and hone in on their skills for on-air performance. So we get to create our own 30-minute show every week, and we get to pick if we want to anchor every week, we can anchor every week. If we want to be an on-air reporter, we can do an on-air reporter. So for me and my skill set and what I want to hone in being on camera, those 2 classes are really perfect because we get to do that every week and get to practice not only how to be on camera, but you also know how to produce. So when you apply for a job, you can say, I know how to edit my own video, but I also know how to do stand-ups. And then I also know how to find the story, and I also know how to report it at the anchor desk. So you can learn all of the different jobs in a studio in one single class. So that would be my favorite.
Okay, so I feel like I'm at an unfair disadvantage here because I've been taking as many classes as you guys. But I will say it's between 2. One I'm taking right now, which is video. Yeah, it's awesome. You learn how to use that camera that's back there, the tripod and everything. You also get super strong from lugging it around everywhere. So it's like if you don't have time for a workout, don't worry about it. So that class is super cool, learning technical skills, learning to edit. I'd say that this class has really taught me, you know, real world skills that I'm gonna need once I get out of here. So that is awesome. And then a class I took first quarter was editing and news judgment, which was new, I think. News structure. And basically it's, the class is set up, it was run by Bill Handy, you guys meet him, he's awesome. And it's basically like you debate about like ethics, and you get in there and it's like that person across from you might be your best friend, but you just kind of go at it and you debate these issues. It's super cool, it's a free space, no judgment zone, like it's really, really awesome to pick your fellow classmates' brains and kind of get like different perspectives, because yeah, although it's like you come here to learn all of these skills, it's also nice to have a class where you step back and you kind of discuss like, you know, the journalism world and like things that operate in between that. So yeah, that class is super cool.
Thank you. The next question I have is, who is your favorite faculty?
Karen Ward is my favorite. TV generated. She produced for a bunch of different shows here locally, and she just has so much knowledge, and she'll explain to you, if you give her a layout for a broadcast show that you want to do for 30 minutes, she'll just say, I don't know if I would put that soccer story here. I would put it in the C block because nobody really wants to hear about soccer. They want to hear about the traffic that's going on in Chicago. So not only does she tell you that things are wrong, but she'll explain it to you in the nicest way. And it's a learning experience, and you'll be like, but, and you can debate with her. Well, Karen, I really think this soccer story should go up here because this person just got like $10 billion. But I still think it should go down here because, so I think Karen Ward is probably my favorite professor. She's also my advisor. And she's taken time out of her busy schedule to meet with me one-on-one and to critique my individual videos that I've made over the past quarters and say, you know, I would fix this and I would fix that. So I would say that she's amazing. I love her.
I don't know if I can pick one. So I already told you guys about Kurt Salisbury there, but Kurt Gessler's definitely awesome. One of my newsroom professors last quarter was Steve Garnett, and he is just a fantastic human being. He tells you straight like what he thinks, and he also like keeps the energy just like really light in the newsroom. He's just like an awesome person to have around. If you're interested in doing like urban issues reporting at all, you'll probably run into him. And he's just like, he knows everything about Chicago. Like I was working on a story, which I'm still working on this quarter, about re-entry from prison to society, and I found this one guy who had spent like 40 years in prison and had gotten out like a year ago, and I was telling Steve about him, and I told him his name, and he's like, I remember when that guy went in, and blah, 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 and I was, you know, just like having that background and being able to tell me like, go look here, and you'll find out like way more about him. So that was really helpful. And then the other person I'm going to say is Cece, because I haven't actually had a class with her, so I don't know if that's totally fair, but she was the faculty member who went on my spring break trip to Argentina, so I got to know her there, and she's also advising me for my global grant to Japan in June, so I'm getting to work with her pretty closely, and she's just a wealth of knowledge and keeps reminding us on like focusing our story down for Japan, because we only have like a week to do all of the reporting over there. So.
Really quickly, I have one more. But it's not even TV related. So I took a sports and society class with Lester Munson, and if many of you watch ESPN, he's a legal analyst there. And we went over all of these crazy legal cases in the sports and society class. And his brain is just so full of knowledge without reading like all of these transcripts. He'll just tell you every single fact that you need to know. And we're just like trying to find them in like papers. And he's like, well, and he also had a knife in his pocket, but that's not even in there. And then we went to his house, and there was a coach that was there, but that's not in there either. And like during that time period, it was just like, how do you remember so much stuff? And you come here every week, and you're trying to teach us how to read through legal cases. But one time it was really funny. Michael Phelps, when I took the class, had gone on or had gotten suspended, and the whole drug case that had happened. So he came to class. And we were all talking about, well, I think a story we want to talk about today is Michael Phelps getting suspended because he got a DUI or something like that. And we were like, Lester, can you talk about it? He was like, you should go on ESPN and hear me talk about it there. I don't want to talk about it yet. We're like, okay. So Lester was definitely a great teacher.
Okay, I have a few, so it's hard to narrow it down. Rachel Mercy is absolutely fantastic. Guys and girls alike, everybody loved her. She just knows how to make everything interesting. And a side note, she's just hilarious too. So like going to class and it's like half educational, half comedy show, like it's great. And also just I think like as a woman, she's super relatable. The first day in class, I remember she said, I want you to all state your opinions in here and not be afraid to speak up and say what you want. Like, I will not judge you for that. We're all going to be respectful of each other's opinions and what you have to say. And I just thought that, you know, she carried that out through the entire class, and it was just really, she created a really nice atmosphere. But yeah, she gives you really good advice. I don't know if dudes have ever gone to her for advice, but I know that myself, myself as a woman, she's given me some really great advice and things that you have to consider that are outside of just journalism and life things that happen. So she'd be a great resource. And in addition to her, Donna Leff, I've only had her now as my editor for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks almost. But she is just a fantastic woman. She, like, if you have a problem, go to her, she will solve it for you. She's very understanding, very knowledgeable, she knows her stuff, but also just like, she makes you feel very, very comfortable. And for me as a student who is, you know, learning all this stuff for the first time, I like faculty members that are like that are willing to sit down and recognize like, hey, like there are these, you know, bumps in the road sometime, let's figure out how we can solve this together. And she's one of those people.
I was also going to say Donna Leff. I took the health and science seminar in my second quarter in the newsroom. She taught that class. Though my reason for liking her, and also Rob Hart, my photojournalism professor, and also Susan Mango, my news graphics and design professor, the common thread between the three of them is that no one will give you any will feed you any bullshit. If something is bad, they're going to tell you it's bad, and then they're going to tell you how to fix it. And that's why we're here. Yeah, I appreciate honest feedback and direct feedback, and I think it's something I got very much in my undergrad career, so it came unexpected to me, and I really appreciate that.
Last of what is your favorite questions? What is your favorite experience that you've had so far in the program? And you can do multiple if you have more than one. But what would be your favorite experience so far in
My favorite would probably be last quarter when we got to do our video recording. I got to report on Ernie Banks' death, which was a huge Chicago event, and I wasn't going to be allowed to do it because they didn't think it was newsworthy, and I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. It's like, I really want to do this story, like, please let me go out, I really want to do this story. And they were like, okay, well, if you can find something newsworthy about it, if you can go to a memorabilia shop, or if you can find someone that has a lot of Ernie Banks stuff, like, find something newsworthy about it, and you have to have it turned around by 5 o'clock. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna find something newsworthy about it. So I went out where they had the statue, and I rolled up on a press conference with Rahm Emanuel and Tom Ricketts and the whole Ernie Banks family, and I was like, yes! So I turned that around, they're like, that was a good one. And I was like, I know, if you let me do it the first time, I would have done it right. But that's probably one of my favorite stories. And then, well, I do have 3. Another one I pushed to get done was the Pullman National Monument, and that's when Obama actually came here, and they were like, you're never gonna get a credential. Called the White House, got a credential, went to Pullman, and heard the president talk. And then an upcoming event that we're actually gonna get to cover as a part of the sports immersion program is we're gonna cover the draft. So we're gonna be able to go in Draft Town and interview all the players, and hopefully, there are 4 of us are going to be able to go into the auditorium theater, actually. We have NFL credentials. A couple of us are going to be able to be on the gold carpet and report from there. So I was like, that's what I want to do, because I want to do entertainment, I want to see what people are wearing, I want to talk about how they feel. So that's an upcoming story that I'm really excited to do. It's like in 2 weeks, so gotta get my outfit ready.
Yeah, I think part of the really awesome thing about being here is like just all of the really cool stories that I've gotten to tell, and like the people who I've gotten to meet as part of telling those stories. Like when the decision happened in Ferguson not to indict the police officer, I heard there was a protest going down Lakeshore Drive, so Q1 with my little like iPod video camera, I'm like chasing people in the cold like down the street, and have since then sort of made protest journalism part of my thing. I think I've followed like 3 or 4 of them, including this past Tuesday. I followed the protest around downtown. So that's been a really cool skill to develop. I did a piece about a community theater group for youth that was doing a play about police violence and race, and the whole like sort of the kids had written the play themselves and were like analyzing like so many facets of the issue. Like it wasn't like a one-sided thing, and just to be able to report that like there are kids who are like 15 years old who are having like these thoughts that like you don't even hear like a lot of like adults having, was like a really really special. Like I felt like, you know, really privileged to be able to tell their story, that they were like allowing me into their space like that. And then, but probably I think the coolest thing that I've done since being here is going to Argentina for spring break. Medill organized 4 spring break trips to different places, and you had to apply, and there was financial aid. So like Medill, thank you, took me down to Argentina for spring break, and we got to meet, you know, different journalists down there. We toured 2 different media organizations. We also met different political figures. We got tours of Buenos Aires. We went to an art museum. I made friends with a bunch of locals because I also dance, and so I found dancers down there and like hung out with them, and so, you know, got to really see what life was like down there, and just like how the theme of the week was sort of like how corrupt the government is down there. So I don't know if you guys heard about the lawyer Niesman, who was murdered towards the beginning of the year, and how that sort of like came out. So we kept asking people down there, like, how do you feel about this? Because it was like a huge story up here in the States, and they were like, oh yeah, that happens. Like that's like a normal part of Argentina life. Somebody got like murdered that might have been like implicating the government, you know. So it was really interesting. Sorry, I know it's kind of a weird tangent, but very cool experience, and a lot of steak. There was a lot of steak.
Actually, there was 5 trips, just to clarify at that point.
Oh.
Argentina, Nicaragua, Doha, Qatar, South Africa, and Mexico. Just
Okay.
so my response doesn't involve any violence. So I'd say that my my favorite story that I did, and like I'm a sucker for love, so I did a story for Valentine's Day about a couple that was married for 67 years, and it was just super moving for me, and it kind of was like that time when I realized, like in my journalism career, that like that reporting is so much bigger than what it actually is. It's like, well, yes, you're learning so much about other people, you're also learning about yourself, which I think is such a cool experience that your sources will never know that you take away from them. Because you really do walk away changed a bit from, writing these stories and creating these stories and connecting with people. So I'd say that that's like the biggest aspect of the program that I like, and just the fact that like I feel like there's a new brain that's been implanted in my head. Like that's how much you learn. I just feel so much smarter, so much more aware about what's happening around me. It's just been really eye-opening. So yeah, you're gonna learn a lot.
This is tough. I guess I have a few. So for the science seminar that I spoke about earlier in Q2, we got to go to Silicon Valley for a few days. Just sort of, actually, a professor walked in the first day, and the first thing she said was, "So you guys want to go to California, right?" And we had no idea that that would be on the table, but yeah, it's all expenses paid, and we got to go to Facebook and tour around there and see what they do. And we got to go to a particle accelerator at a facility associated with Stanford University, but not actually on its own campus. And we got to see, how they do real heavy research in science. It's not the kind of practical application, consumer technology kind of stuff that I was used to studying. And it's just sort of, it was all about expanding your mind, and it's not something that I thought I would spend a lot of time doing in journalism school. I really, thought this would be all about learning new skills, and that's what I'm here to do. But it's great to be able to do all kinds of learning. So you get the opportunity to do all kinds of learning here. Same class. I also we had to do a final paper for that course where you talk about coverage of a scientific issue, explain how the media has done a good or bad job covering those issues. And I threw out a bunch of topics, and none of them were really fit what she wanted to write about. But one of them was net neutrality, and she said, "I just don't know anything about it, so just write something, and we'll see how it goes." And afterward, and because I'm a technology writer, I know a little bit about it, and I was able to do a good job. But that's not what was good about it. What was good about it was she came to me afterwards like, "I understand what this is now. Thank you for doing that." So I've never experienced something where I taught a professor or something. So I think it says something about, especially about a person, especially when they're in a position of authority over you, if they're able to thank you and admit that they don't know something. So in a way, that was kind of a humbling moment. And my last one is from this quarter. Actually, it's from Tuesday night. And it's very simple. It's a really simple thing. I'm in a course called Personal Narrative. It's sort of essay writing, and it's not really journalism, but it's just writing about yourself and your experiences at a very precise level. And I'm in the magazine track, so I've taken some editing courses, and I traded papers with one of my classmates, and our deadline was midnight, and we spent from 6 until 11, trading papers back and forth. And I think there's just something really great about working with your peers on something, and especially at a high level, and you really feel like you're getting something out of editing their paper, and you're getting something out of getting their feedback, and it's, you know, coming from working in journalism for a long time, I didn't really work with editors a lot. Like, I would write posts and they'd say, okay, it's fine, write the next one. Which isn't really how it's supposed to be. It's really supposed to be a back and forth between the writer and editor. So getting that experience, I thought was really, really great.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one other thing, if you guys are like worried about coming here alone and not knowing anybody, I did that. I didn't know a single person going to Medill at least. And I met my best friend like in the entire world. Like she trumps everyone ever. Like she's amazing, Lydia. She's like my soul sister for life. Like she's, yeah. So don't be worried about that. Like that for me was one of the biggest things this program is meeting my best friend. So she won't know that.
The next thing I wanted to turn to is I know the sports program is a really new and exciting opportunity that we have as part of the MSJ degree, and with that comes a trip. And I know that one of our panelists went on the trip, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your experiences.
Sure. Well, everyone was going international over spring break. A group of us went to Orlando. We toured like a bunch of different sports venues. So we went to the Florida Citrus Bowl. We went to the Florida Sentinel. We went to ESPN Wide World of Sports, and we saw a spring training game with the Braves, because that's where their home stadium is for spring training. And then we went to Amway Center, where the Orlando Magic play, and we met with an executive there. He took us on a tour and talked about all of the media that goes on and where all the media sits, and we had credentials to go and sit in the box. It's not like we had anything to write or anything. We just wanted to sit there and feel cool and all of that. But it was a great trip. It was only about 17 of us, and we went with Charles Whitaker, who's in charge of the sports immersion program. We went with Candy Lee and one more person, and Mark Zaresti, yes. So it was just a great trip. We had so much to do over a 2-day span. And we got to learn a lot, not just taking a tour of the venue, but actually how media and journalism works in each specific place. So I thought that was really interesting. And it was good to get away from Chicago and meet other people from different quarters, because as much as, you know, we sit together here, I really never see, you know, everyone here, because we're all on different tracks, we're all on different quarters. So we met a lot of people. And actually, in a couple of weeks, we're going to Bristol, Connecticut, and we're going to go take a tour of the ESPN campus. We're going to sit in on a taping of Mike and Mike, and then there are a bunch of Medill at ESPN, like you would be surprised. So each person, when we go to lunch, each person is going to be set with a Medill alum, and we're going to be able to do one-on-one conversations at lunch, which is I'm really excited about. So if you want to be on air, they're going to pair you with someone that's on air. If you like to produce, they're going to set you up with someone that likes to produce that first take. So that's going to be really exciting. And then another part of the sports immersion program that we have is a mentor program. So my mentor is Willie Weinbaum. He's a writer for ESPN, and he's just a great resource, not only for sports. I send him all of my stories, like, what do you think about this food depository story that has nothing to do with sports? He's like, I wouldn't start off with a soundbite. I would start off with a strong quote. So it's just not necessarily sports. It's how are you as a writer? How can I help you as a writer? How can I help you as a mentor? So everyone has a mentor in the program. And I think it's just a really great program that's up and coming, and all of the different trips that we get to take. And we're doing the draft coverage as a part of the sports immersion program. So it's really exciting too.
Thank you very much. And then I'm going to turn it over to Q&A in a few minutes, but I have one other general question I'd like to ask you guys. Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with housing here?
Where did you choose to live? Why?
Okay. I rent did an apartment site on Seed in Edgewater, which is sort of halfway between here and Evanston. So I had about 45 minutes either way. Turned out to work fine. I live by myself, but when compared to New York, which is where I'm from, I'm perfectly happy with what I got, the rent that I'm paying, and it's in a quiet neighborhood. I mean, do your research, but I don't think it's that easy one to find stuff.
Okay, so I live in Evanston. Have you guys gone to Evanston yet? Oh, tomorrow. Okay, cool. So Evanston is really lovely. It's quiet. There's not much to eat after 10 o'clock. I love where I live. I think it's great. All of my classes first quarter were in Evanston. It was a 6-minute walk every morning. That was lovely because I started in the winter and I didn't have to commute. So it was like, great, I only have to spend 5 minutes in this freezing cold. So yeah, that part's nice. But this quarter, all of my classes are here downtown. So it takes about an hour on the L to get here. So me and my friends, we all live in Evanston, and we say if we could do it over again, we probably would live in Lakeview. It's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, it's kind of like midway. Yeah, okay, and you're gonna get to it in a second. Anyways, yeah, so I think that probably finding a place that's midway would be the smartest, because some of your classes are gonna be in Evanston, and some of your classes are gonna be here. So I just think it's like, smack dab in the middle, either way you go, because on Fridays, we have this thing called Medill Fridays, which I don't know if you guys explained to them yet. I'm sure you'll learn more about it later. But anyways, those happen usually 90% of the time in Evanston. So that's something to consider too, that most Fridays you'll be there. But to say that I'm completely unhappy in Evanston is not true. I love it there. I love where I live specifically. And I know the panel that I went to when I first got here, someone left business cards, and I'm gonna do that too. And if you guys have any questions, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. Text me, whatever you want, and I'll let you know. Because I think it's super helpful. Like, housing is a big deal. I think this is something that you shouldn't just be like, okay, well, that looks good, and it's cheap, and it's whatever. And I think it's something that sorry. Yeah. So, anyways, it's just one opinion.